We have obviously three brothers, but outside of us, we have a team that we buy these properties with. So just because we don't live in a state, one of our partners might live nearby. So if we need someone boots on the ground to just quickly go out there, if something comes up, they'll be able to do that. And I think that's why it's so important to partner up with good partners and then leverage where they are.
Welcome to the Going Long Podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident in investing beyond your backyard. And once again, I am your host, Billy Keels, and I'm looking forward to sharing today's conversation, which is awesome, with you in just as quickly as possible. So here's the thing. I know that a number of you have continued to ask, like, Billy, how's the show continue to move up in the ratings so much? And this is amazing. And you know what? It's largely thanks to you and the fact that you continue to come back. You are downloading the episodes, you're listening, you're sharing, and really, really appreciate that. And also, you are sharing your honest written reviews. And if you haven't done that yet, it would be great for you to share, especially on the Apple Podcast platform, the honest written reviews as well as your ratings of the podcast. Let us know the things you like us to do more of, things maybe you'd like us to do less of, change things around. We're going through that, constantly reading the reviews and responding to those reviews. So so if you're interested and you want to continue to help us to move further faster in the podcast rankings, continue to leave your honest written reviews as well as your ratings. And the other thing is, a lot of you have asked, like, Billy, how can I find out where there was this episode, I can't find it anymore on the platform? Listen, I've got the answer for you. Every single episode you can find if you go to billykeels.com. Once you're there, go to the podcast tab. Once again, you can find every single episode, audio, visual, video format, doesn't matter. Go to billykeels.com and once you get there, you just go to the podcast tab. So billykeels.com, find the podcast tab, and you can find every single one there. And lastly, for those of you who are accredited investors and you are interested in finding out more about what we are doing here, we are starting an investor club for accredited investors. If you want to know more about that, you can go to R.E.I. Club at billykeels.com. And once again, accredited investors, net worth, you have a net worth of over $1 million, not including your primary residence, or you are making $200,000 the previous 2 years and expected to do that this year, or as a family, $300,000 the previous years, and you're also expected to do that this year. So there's also a test you can take. You can find out more about that if you Google it, I'm sure. But with that, listen, just go to write an email to R.E.I. Club at billykeels.com, and we will get information over to you. We'll be in touch. If you have not very much experience and you're trying to figure out, like, how in the world do I build my brand? How in the world do I get out there? Do I invest in multifamily assets or in new types of tangible assets? And you just don't know where to get started. Maybe you don't come from a family that was in real estate investors, but you want to get started now. You want to grow your business. We've got a conversation today that is really going to inspire you. I had a chance to speak with Kerwin, Kenneth, and Jeffrey Donis, the Donis Brothers, and they are going to really help you get out of your own way. If you're getting in your way and you're trying to actively invest or passively invest, this conversation today is going to be really, really fantastic. And we're going to get to that conversation just after these short words.
Whether you're an active investor or a passive investor, you really like your day job and you want to continue to go into your day job every single day feeling better, knowing that you've created the right options for yourself. At the same time, you just don't have enough time to really get your head around, spend all the hours investing long distance. Well, one way or the other, over the last number of years that I have been investing long distance, I've really understood a number of the major mistakes that you should avoid if you want to get to creating the right options for yourself much faster and being able to create more income sooner. And if you want to do that, if you want to understand more about that, I've made it really, really simple. You can just go to billykeels.com/7 mistakes to avoid. You can learn all the things that the 7 major mistakes that I've seen over and over again that I want you to avoid. Once again, you can go to billykeels.com/7 mistakes to avoid.
If you want to learn how to create a long distance real estate monopoly with family and friends, then guess what? Today's the conversation you're going to want to listen to until the very last word, because today's guests are a positive triple threat around education, action, as well as partnering. And you know what? I'm just going to get right to the point because it gives me great pleasure to welcome to today's conversation the co-founders and managing partner of Donis Investment Group, the Donis Brothers. And I will let each one of you introduce yourselves. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation because you guys have so many awesome things going on. And I know you're going to make a positive impact on the entire Going Long family. So really quickly, give a quick introduction to each one of you, and then I'm going to get into the first two questions that we have for today.
Hey, you guys, Kenneth Donis here. I'm 23 years old, and I'm a multifamily investor.
Hey, Billy, thanks for having us. I'm Kerwin, 20 years old. Hey, I'm their brother, Jeffrey. I'm 20 years old as well. Thanks for having us.
All right, guys, Kerwin, Kenneth, and Jeffrey, it's really a pleasure to have the three of you here. Like I said, you're going to make a massive impact on the entire Going Long family. And listen, the entire Going Long family knows this already, but every single guest here gets 5 questions. You're going to get 2 in the beginning, as you know, and you're going to get 3 in the end. And then in the middle, well, you know what? I don't know what questions you're going to get, but whatever the questions are, I know they're going to be a positive impact on everybody that's a part of the Going Long family. So let's get into the very first question, which is, guys, help us understand, where do you live in the United States?
Yeah, we all live here in Durham, North Carolina, up and coming area. We've lived here for a few years now. Yeah, it's known as the Research Triangle.
Yeah, near Raleigh.
Near Raleigh, the Research Triangle, and it definitely is an upcoming area. I have a mobile home park that's, well, it's not really in that area. It's a little bit further. It's over near Charlotte, but lots going on in North Carolina, which is fantastic. Guys, also too, would love for you to help get us started off with some positivity, some positive vibes. Help us understand, what is the most positive thing that's happened to each one of you in the last 24 hours?
I can go first. This is Jeffrey. I woke up today early, and I'm blessed and grateful to have been able to. Yeah, I'll go next. Last night, a member of our MultiFamily group hosted a Raising Capital Mastermind, and we learned a lot of gold nuggets about how to build an online presence.
Yeah, and lastly, like my brother said, of course, we woke up today, but after the gym, we got an early workout in. We had an awesome breakfast with some potatoes and some awesome eggs.
Some good eggs.
Yeah, great breakfast.
Fantastic. So one of the things I am going to say, and I know most of the Going Long family already recognizes I'm outside of my normal office, but if you're not watching, I think everybody just kind of make sure that you get over and check out the video version of today's conversation, because it's really awesome to see 3 brothers together smiling and working together to not only become more educated one another, but also going out to the marketplace and helping to educate other people, learning, growing, as I talked about, the triple threat. So listen, guys, and I give myself this impossible task. The Going Long family, I think they kind of laugh at me by this point in time, but trying to tell anyone's backstory in like 6 seconds is very difficult. Trying to tell 3 people's backstory in that same amount of time is almost impossible. So listen, guys, whoever you want, I would love for you guys to tell us a bit more about your backstory. And most importantly, talk to us about, like, what are some of the major decisions that you've made to get to this point in your journey? And because I know you're working on really big goals and impacting so many people positively, after you tell your backstory, you talk about those decisions, we'll see where the conversation goes, and so that the entire Going Long family gets to know much more about you.
Awesome. I'll take the lead. So we read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read that the summer before my freshman year of college. And then that's what I say broke me. Before then, I thought in the context of working at a job. And then I realized that investing in real estate and having a business was an option. So that semester, I was cold calling for a fix and flipper, also learning about wholesaling. Kenneth heard about wholesaling on a podcast. And we went to Guatemala at the end of 2020 and into the new year. And that's where my mom's from. And we were really exposed to the realities of extreme poverty, and we were low income in America, but that was nothing compared to the low income status and the extreme poverty that other people in other countries face. So we realized the American privilege we have. We call it the lottery. We won the lottery by being born here. So we took action the day we got back, started wholesaling. It took us 6 months to get our first deal. That was long nights, long days, 9 to 8, cold calling every day. Once we got our first deal, we spent about a year in wholesaling, and then decided that commercial real estate, multifamily in particular, was more aligned with our long-term goals of retiring our mom. And so we made the transition into multifamily syndication.
Wow, that's really fantastic. And you kind of got me there when you talk about, so there's a couple of different things, right? There's a number of different places I want to go, because being someone who is now living in another country that is not my own, which is different than your situation, but your mother, who was born in a different country, is there. But you mentioned that you started in real estate, but like it could have been anything, right? You knew that it wasn't corporate. You did the Rich Dad Poor Dad, but why, when you got started in real estate, was it specifically in the wholesaling area, number one? And then after that, I have a follow-on question.
Yeah. So, excuse me. So I was actually sitting in my apartment, and I was in college at the time, and it was just I was watching The Breakfast Club, and a guy named Mark Whitten came on and started speaking about wholesaling real estate and how, he had no cash, no credit, and he came from the hood, no education, and he built a multi-million-dollar company. And at the time he was basically saying, he was a multi-millionaire. And at the time I wasn't really thinking that big. I wasn't thinking, you could potentially become a millionaire from building your own business. So that really caught my attention. And so I kind of told my brothers about it. And I told them that this is definitely something we could do, because he's no different than us. And he's basically saying, if you're watching this, you can do it too. And that's kind of what caught our attention.
So how skeptical were you when you heard that, Kerwin saying, hey, listen, we could become millionaires? Because I was listening to a guy. When you talk about the Breakfast Club, for those of you who don't know, that's the radio show, The Breakfast Club, not the movie.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. But because, I think you could hear that and you'd be like, be a millionaire? Really? No, that's not possible. How much skepticism was there, guys, when you heard Kerwin talk about this?
Yeah, I would say there was a lot, but through educating ourselves, we kept listening to a podcast called Wholesaling Inc. And they just had consecutive guests. It was a daily podcast. So every single day there was someone there talking about how they did their first deal. And we just kept hearing, every ordinary people pretty much that just tried and had faith in it. And at first it was something they hadn't done. And then it became a proof of concept once they closed on their first deal. So that really just kept us motivated. And eventually we were like, if they can do it, we can do it too. And we literally just started taking action, and eventually we got our first deal. And that's how we proved to ourselves that if we set our mind to something, we can do it. And I want to emphasize, we were skeptical at first. It was, like I said, we learned about wholesaling in the early, mid 2020, but it wasn't until the 2021, the top of the year, that we actually started wholesaling after our experience in Guatemala. And I think that's when we realized that this, the fear we had, or the analysis paralysis stage we were in, that was a privilege that people in other countries don't have. And the opportunities we have here, we were wasting them. And so time was like a luxury that other people just don't have.
Yeah. And at first, I remember when I first heard about it, I went straight to Google and I just started researching, what is wholesaling? Can you wholesale a house? What does that even mean? And people there was actual attorneys that popped up in Google saying, yes, you can legally wholesale a house and you can actually take assignment fees. And I was like, in my mind, at first I thought this is not possible. But then I started to realize this is something that people are doing legally, and it's an actual business.
Yeah, and to clarify the dates, we started in at the end of 2019. That's when the education process started. We took action January 2020 when we got back from Guatemala, and then 2021 was when we got into commercial real estate.
Love that, guys. And as a Going Long family, what I want you to hear, what the guys are saying is, number one, they heard something. Right, influence of one brother to the next, and hey, there's the skepticism, the initial skepticism, but then from there, it's a basis of education. It could be passively listening to things, it could be actively looking for information. Is this legal? Is this not legal? It's then going out, continuing that journey along to find out more about. Okay, well, will this work in a specific context? No, but then you also said, after doing the wholesaling for a while, that you realized that you wanted to do something else, and that was multifamily. And there was a strong why behind that. Now, I'd love for you to repeat that, but I guess because there's so many different aspects of real estate. A lot of times people get into real estate and they just say real estate, but you guys, as you're on your path, you understand that it's a really, really vast world, right? There's a lot of different areas that you could play in, and I understand that there's a why, because you wanted to retire your mother, which I think is fantastic and an absolutely powerful emotional why. I guess my question is, why multifamily and not something else?
Yeah, well, we learned in Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, that the key to financial freedom is to have your passive income cover your expenses. And we knew that we could succeed in wholesaling, but it was still an active, it's like a job. We were creating a job. So we didn't want to look back in 10 years and see that we climbed up the wrong tree. We always knew that commercial real estate was something we were always interested in, but we just assumed that you had to take the certain stepping stones in single family, whether that was wholesaling, flipping, things like that. But we realized once we had, there was a mastermind group that had Alvin Hope Johnson come on, and he said he was a syndicator. And that was when we were first exposed to it. And we just realized that that was a limiting belief we had. And so once we just identified the reason that we weren't just going straight into multifamily was fear, that was when it became really clear that that was the path we had to take.
Awesome. So, and guys, so for me, and I'm sure you get this on other podcasts or whenever you're sharing your story, like there's a thing that each one of you talked about your age in the beginning. Now, I guess because I wish I would have known what you already know, right? But I guess I'm just curious in terms of, there's this saying that iron sharpens iron. Your brothers. You're also getting started in your journey and you're advancing rather quickly. And I guess the thing is, kind of, what are some of the practices that you share amongst the three of you to ensure that you're consistently working to have the latest information, that you're testing that you're taking not just the information, but you're taking that knowledge or information and putting it into practice and doing it in an environment that, I think when you work with family, there's a lot of positives and there can be some drawbacks sometimes too. But maybe you could talk to us a little bit about how you're working on making sure that you're always staying latest and greatest on information and putting that information into action.
Yeah, well, one thing that we do consistently is listen to podcasts and read books. And I think that's something that we all share. We all like different topics, but specifically in regards to real estate, I listen to a lot of podcasts. We are in a mastermind group and we all get on those calls. We also go to a lot of networking events. So just by going out, and you're obviously going to learn at these events, you're going to talk to other people in the industry. Typically, they have a lot more experience than we do. Mm-hmm. So we're just rubbing shoulders with these people, taking their knowledge. And then when we get back home, we live together. So pretty much we share the same routines 7 days out of the week. And if one of us is working, the other one typically is working too, because that's kind of the thing that we like to do. So it kind of just keeps each other accountable. And that's really how we've been able to take the knowledge consistently, just by keeping those habits, and then we'll pretty much implement them every single day as we build our business. Yeah. And just to add to that, I mean, we have spontaneous masterminds where over lunch or breakfast, we'll just talk. We also tend to, like Jeffrey said, have different interests, but we're all always reading different things. And so we share what we've learned. And I think that we have like the power of three, where we multiply what we're learning. So I don't have to read the same book Jeff did, because he can kind of just give me the Cliff Notes version. That's kind of how we add to each other's knowledge base.
Fantastic. So how often I'll wait and ask that one later. I have a brother and sister as well. So there's three of us. But the dynamics are a bit different. So, guys, we talked about this earlier on. Like, one of the things that when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then I started listening to podcasts, and then I started reading other books, one of the things that I took away, like, this was my interpretation, is that, wow, I was working in this corporate job. I like my corporate job, making money, doing a lot of things, having enough freedom. But there was something about being able to have more options, more control. I was seeing this, you could create $200 to $300 a month per door. And I was like doing the math in my head, and I was like, oh my gosh, if I could scale this would be amazing. But one of the things that I either was written in the books or that I interpreted was, listen, you buy these properties, you're going to be a landlord, you're going to make this extra money, and you kind of do it in the area where you live. Well, I tried to do that, but I live in Barcelona, Spain, and I was looking for cash flow. So that ended up being a disaster. So one of the things that I ended up doing was, and everybody that's a part of the Going Long family, they know this today, I invest exclusively in the United States, living in Europe, right? It's not just real estate. It's a bunch of different tangible assets. But I fundamentally do not believe that you have to live in the same city that you are investing in. I think you can do that, but it doesn't have to be the only way to success. So one of the reasons that I love having guests like yourselves is help us understand, like, what I call long distance investing or remote investing, or however people want to call it, is you live in one place and you invest in another. Now, I happen to know you guys invest in a particular region of the United States, but why in the world would you make life more difficult for yourself by investing in somewhere that's not in your backyard?
Yeah, and Kenny, you can go, sir.
Well, I would honestly say, I mean, it's not necessarily more difficult, whether it's in your backyard or not in your backyard. These properties that we're taking down, they're larger properties. They have property management in place, and they're the ones pretty much doing the day-to-day operations. And of course, we would meet with these, a few weeks at a time just to make sure that they're on track, but we don't have to be there every day. Now, I would say you would likely want to visit the property, every once in a while, just to make sure that things are the way they say they are. But you don't necessarily have to be there every day. Yeah. Unless you'd like to.
And I'd like to add, really, Robert Kiyosaki talks a lot about this, which is just having a team and the importance of having a team. So we have obviously 3 brothers, but outside of us, we have a team that we buy these properties with. So just because we don't live in a state, one of our partners might live nearby. So he, if we need someone boots on the ground to just quickly go out there, if something comes up, they'll be able to do that. And I think that's why it's so important to partner up with good partners and then leverage where they are. Maybe you're really good at one thing. They might be boots on the ground and they might be better at something else. So that's kind of how you kind of play off each other's strengths.
Yeah. Love being able to play off strengths and being able to do that. But it's most like kind of take it back where Kenneth started was you don't have to be the person that is doing it, because at the end of the day, we'd like to talk about this just kind of as the steps is be clear on what it is that you want. Are you looking for cash flow? Are you looking for tax benefits? Once you know what you're doing, then go to the location that's going to give you the highest probability of getting those results. And then once you do that, the third layer is really about the team. Like there is no more important element than the team. So when you say that you're buying a property, it doesn't mean that you have to buy, manage, and collect rent for the property. That's why you have a team. And then afterwards, you buy whatever you want to buy that's going to help that your team understands and is in the location. And whether that's a 200-unit apartment complex, it's energy equipment, it's ATM machines, it's whatever. It can be whatever, but those things are actually aligned. And that gives you the freedom of being able to live wherever you want and making sure that the investments make the most sense for you or the people that you're syndicating your capital with or whatever the case may be. So thank you very much for that. And it's once again, it is being able to be here and share these ideas with other people so that you don't feel like you have to do everything. And you guys, you knocked it out of the park. So one of the things actually we'll come back. So you said that you wanted to retire your mother, right? And MultiFamily is one of the ways to be able to do that. Now, I'm going to make an assumption, but I don't like to assume anything. So I'm just going to ask you the question. Does your mother, has she been able to share her knowledge of real estate or anything like that? Like, does she have a lot of knowledge from real estate that she's imparted on you guys?
So no, not at all. She she owns a house in Guatemala, but that's pretty much it. And so, no background in real estate, although she cleans houses. And so I would say there were some entrepreneurial seeds planted. Like she doesn't really have a boss. She has people that she cleans houses for. But other than that, no, not really.
Yeah. Okay. So we're the first ones in our family to pretty much break into the entrepreneurial space and start our own business. We're first generation in this country. So from my mother, she comes from poverty. My sister was the first one to graduate from college, and we are the first. We're still first generation. So we're breaking. We're breaking the ground on that one.
All right, congratulations, guys. That's really, really awesome. And the reason I ask is, I come from a family where both of my parents worked 2 jobs and all this kind of stuff. So very similar story. Like I first wanted to go to college. And my parents both tried entrepreneurial ventures that some worked, some didn't. But neither of them had any, and even my stepmom don't have any knowledge of real estate. So I didn't have anybody that I could go to turn and say, hey, listen, I've got this question about this particular structure. I didn't know about that. And I was living in Spain, and I'm still living in Spain. So because you guys have where you come from, you have your first generation. The whole thing that I think one of you mentioned earlier was this whole thing of networking. And that's something that's important. So maybe talk to us a little bit more about, number one, how you got involved in networking and kind of what is the main strength or the main benefit that you see that it's providing you today?
Yeah, I don't exactly remember the first event we went to. Actually, I do. So we got into real estate or just entrepreneurship through the books. And then that was just through podcasts. And we just kept always going online, using technology to learn. YouTube was the first way we learned about real estate. And then it led to podcasts, and then those led to books. So it was kind of like that rabbit hole that we jumped into. And eventually you just start following certain, people call them gurus, or we just call them, thought leaders in that space. Right. So once that starts happening, we eventually went to a wholesaling conference in Alabama. That was the first one we went to. And then we just started going to a lot. So this year we've probably been over to 6. And this is the most flights we've taken in our whole lives this year. And it's awesome because we've learned really quickly that your network is literally your net worth. That's very cliche to say, but we've been able to accelerate our growth just by leveraging relationships. And Kerwin likes to say all the time, we love to invest in people because that's just the thing that's going to give you an infinite ROI. Yep. And that's something that we saw in all of our businesses. I haven't started that many, but in both that we've started, we've been able to accelerate and just become a lot more efficient by just leveraging other people's and their knowledge since we're so young.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, leveraging the efforts of others is one of my mentors, Russell Gray, talks about quite frequently. Is in being able to do that and do it in a way that is beneficial for both or all parties is something that a lot of people are able to take advantage of in a positive sense, right?
Wow, don't you just love this conversation? This is amazing. This is fantastic. And so just really quickly, I just wanted to remind you, for those of you that are looking to create more options for yourself, get there faster, and do that with long distance investing, make sure that you go to billykeels.com/7 mistakes to avoid so that you can avoid all those mistakes, get to your goals faster and sooner. Once again, that's billykeels.com/7 mistakes to avoid. Now back to the conversation.
So because you guys have mentioned it, and I keep coming back to this thing. I mean, I was like the youngest person to do a lot of things, right? So I see and I want the entire Going Long family to feel the inspiration for the clarity of vision that you have and the fact that you're continuously taking action, right? Because everybody has the opportunity. It's more or less, are you taking advantage of that opportunity, right?
Absolutely.
At the same time, there's probably some people that could be thinking to themselves, well, because you guys mentioned that you are, unless I heard it incorrectly, you not only do you invest, but you also syndicate. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. So one of the things that people may say, well, hang on a second. I've been working in the corporate world for 40 years or 25 years or 30 years. And I've got these guys who are here and their experience is, I don't know, a whole lot less than mine. Right. I've been there. So I know how I responded to those people when they had this kind of question of, well, yeah, your experience level is not where I would expect it to be. I'm pretty sure I know what your answer is, but I don't want to assume anything again. So how do you deal with those people that may say, well, you don't have enough quote unquote experience?
Yeah. And that goes back to the networking aspect, right? So that's the main thing I would say. Obviously, we spend a lot of time, we're full-time real estate entrepreneurs. We spend a lot of time educating ourselves. So when we have conversations, typically people, the only way they can tell that I'm young personally is by the sound of my voice, or if they see me in person, then they'll be able to tell because I look young. But other than that, typically I don't ever act like I know more than I really do. If I don't know it, I'm not afraid to admit it. But the one thing that, going back to the networking aspect, is we've invested in relationships. So our partners, those are the people that we heavily, rely on, right? We're partnering with people who have 10 times the experience we do. They have the really good reputations. So we're just in the rooms with the right people, and that comes down to networking. Yeah. So building those relationships, we're able to leverage their credibility and track record. So I would like to say sometimes we're just we make the introductions or things like that. But absolutely, having those people on your team help us compensate for that.
Yeah. And we also spend, a lot of hours. A lot of people, 10,000 hours, you can consider yourself an expert. We're doing this 12 hours a day, pretty much studying markets, underwriting deals. So we also have some form of experience ourselves as well, but we definitely lean on others who have, far beyond what we've experienced.
Yeah, sure. Because obviously we're young and more people are going to know more than we do. So we would never act like we know more. But at the end of the day, when you have a conversation with someone, typically we at least can carry the conversation, and typically we are the experts in the conversation.
Yeah. Fantastic. So, and I guess one of the things I used to look at it was I am young and experienced. So, and for what I lack in experience, I surround myself with those that have a lot more experience than I do. And I love the way that you guys have that not just perception, but it's the way that you're acting, meaning on a daily basis. Back to the triple that I was talking about in the very beginning, right? Not just educational, but also action, and then being able to partner. and do that. So why did you decide that it was the southeast of the United States is kind of like the area where you want to place your focus and your expertise in building relationships?
Yeah, well, along with every other multifamily investor in the country, we decided. Excuse me. I mean, a lot of people from New York, a lot of people from California, they're pretty much migrating to the southeast primarily, just because either taxes or they just are. It's getting too expensive or other reasons. It's definitely cheaper down here. There's not as much. There's a lot of job growth, which we like to see, population growth, which is pretty much the main two reasons. And honestly, we've grown up here in North Carolina, and we love North Carolina. So
yeah, and funny enough, I mean, my mom, we were born in New York, but we were raised in North Carolina, and I've never really liked New York in general. So I can totally relate to those people that are moving from those northern states to here. Yeah, and during COVID, that was like one of the biggest migrations that we saw while we were looking at the market. Just so many people live in New York, and obviously the COVID-19 pandemic was affecting the places with more people, right? So as people wanted to get away from that, they started moving down to the southeast. We grew up here. We love it here, honestly. It's hard to we grew up in a really good area, so it's hard to find or to think where we could move that would be just as good. But obviously, we want to spread our wings. So not for lack of trying. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I have the same problem with Barcelona. It's like I could go other places, but like this place is awesome. Exactly. So I'm going to stay right here.
And in our markets, they're frequently making the top lists and charts for like the top markets. And so that's obviously, I mean, that goes without saying, but that's a pretty strong motivating factor for us. Yeah.
Awesome. So guys, talk to us a little bit about, or if you can share a little bit, because you spend a lot of time investing in relationships, investing in your knowledge and your education, and things like that. And at the end of the day, you can do lots of relationship building, networking, et cetera. But when the rubber meets the road, a lot of it has to do with systems and process, right? So talk to us about maybe how you guys are either addressing that now, or you're preparing for putting really robust systems, processes in place so that you can maximize whatever result it is that you're looking for.
Yeah, well, we come from a wholesale background. So, we learned how to build out system and process as far as like having a CRM system. So we track all of the deals that get sent to me. So I'm the acquisitions manager for our team. So I study markets, look at the deals, and I put them into our system and I track all of that. And then we kind of have each our own respective roles, but
yeah. And I think the systems really start out with like a thought, right? So you think about the process, in my opinion, and you try to implement those and systemize it in a way where if you were to hire or delegate the role, someone else can step right in and do it without having to, think too much. And it really just comes down to, in my opinion, using a CRM. That's the first step, which is just like a CRM. And that's kind of, for us, we started out with Podio. But one way that I delegate networking, for example, or my investor relations, I'll put them in the CRM and I keep notes, and then I put a follow-up date. So it's very simple. It's nothing complicated, but it's just a way to be structured and organized.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Did you want to add something else?
Yeah. So we for our podcast, I've outsourced it to a Fiverr agent. And what I did was, for the systems and procedures for how to approach the editing, I wrote it down to the point where if someone came in with no knowledge, they could just read the form I wrote and they could replicate the steps I want them to do in order to understand the editing. And that's been really effective. And I think Jeffrey touched on it, but I want to expand on how we approach networking. That's, I think, our number one thing. That's our one thing that moves the needle for us. So Jeffrey, every single time we meet someone at an event, we give them a card or take down someone's number or email, put them into our CRM for Podio. So we put them in our Podio and then schedule a follow-up date with them. And we're very systematic about that. And it's not necessarily to be like calculated, but it really is just to make sure that we stay on top of keeping in touch with people. And a lot of times people appreciate that. And I think that's, you can help stay just, it's yeah, exactly.
Sorry, what'd you say, Ken?
Stay on top of mind.
Yeah. You just don't want to forget about people, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's one of those things early on where I was like, you mentioned calculating. Oh no, it's just, you have you have the same limitation on time, and you want to be systematic in terms of being able to manage the relationship. And in the beginning, you don't have that like bond. And so you're making sure that you're at least staying top of mind. And then eventually you're going to meet up at some new networking event, or someone's going to be in Raleigh-Durham and they're going to want to hang out with you guys, but you'll probably be somewhere else in the world. But yeah, I mean, you have to become more systematized in the way that you do 100%. Things. And they don't have to be this massive thing. It's like you guys said, it could be just very simple, a notification. And it reminds me that I need to give you guys a call or send you an email and say, hey, what's up? Or where are you in the world?
Exactly.
Which I think is great. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Just an ad for the podcast. We also use Anchor, and through Anchor, you're able to like schedule the podcast release. And so right now we're releasing 5 days a week. So what we do is just I schedule it on Sunday night, and then 9 a.m. every day it releases without me really having to do anything. Yeah, and I would credit the number one book that Kerwin, he kind of made us read a few months. It was like almost over a year ago now. Traction by Gino Wickman. That's the thing that really taught us about systems and processes and the importance of them.
Yeah. So systems, processes, you guys have a handle on that. Always working to improve, making even more efficient, et cetera, et cetera. You talked about the podcast, so maybe you talk I want to give you an opportunity also to talk about the podcast. I kind of gave it when I talked about the real estate monopoly in the beginning. That was an inside joke between all of us guys. But talk to us a little bit about your podcast, why you decided to start it, and really what is the platform that you're building? What is your goal?
Yeah. Well, with each guest, I hope to share their story and have them drop gold nuggets along the way. And the ideal objective of it is to have the listener come on and build like an emotional connection to the guest, but also learn from them. And I think that there's some studies that have been done that when people feel emotionally attached or connected to something, they're more likely to learn more from it. So I dive into the guest background and then have them share some trials and tribulations they've gone through and just their ups and downs of their journey. And I also do my research in the behind the scenes as well, just to make sure that I can ask the best questions possible. But yeah, I mean, really, it's just number one objective is to inspire the audience. And then right after that is number two. I want it to be the last show they listen to before they take action.
All right. Fantastic. So with that, you talk about emotion. So we're going to go there.
Yeah.
Because we got a couple more minutes. I have like my brother and sister. I absolutely love them both. Love them with all of my heart. We're very different and we do different things in life. We're always supportive of one another, right? In terms of the things we do, but we don't work together on a daily basis, right? Because we're very different. We're wired very differently. So we're kind of got two questions. The first one is, I feel the love as I see you guys, and hopefully people are also understanding that and feel that either they're on video or listening to the audio as they're running on the treadmill or doing whatever. Yeah. So first, let's talk about what do you guys find is what has been a challenge for the three of you as you're building a business, because you're brothers, right? And so what have you found to be early on one of the challenges that you've had to work together to overcome?
Yeah, I can start. I would say first would be identifying what our natural strengths are. Because we've kind of been stepping on each other's toes, or it's sometimes hard when there's one thing that we know that needs to get done. We're not sure. Like at the beginning, we were all underwriting. I did some underwriting a little bit, but Kenneth just naturally gravitated towards that. So I think learning to identify what our strengths were, what we actually like to do, that was the initial like ups and downs of it. And I think that's natural for any entrepreneur when they're starting out. Yeah. I mean, I would just say, honestly, I really struggle to come up with challenges. I mean, I don't know if I would have other business partners I'd like to work with. I do think obviously just I live with them. So the one thing is when you do fight, the only challenge I would say is like, you have to just get over it really quickly. Right. And that's the thing that we've always done since we were young. We would fight and we would we didn't have anywhere to go and we only would see each other. So like you either fight with him and get over it, or you're just going to hold a grudge for a long time. So quickly we learned and we implement that in our business that we'll have our disagreements, but at the end of the day, it's all love. And that's kind of how we've been able to grow and just build a really good relationship. And I think it comes back down to the why. So challenges, I can't get away from them, but I don't think I'd want to have it any other way.
Yeah. And I mean, personally, I would say my challenge is at the beginning, I would say I'm like more of a go kind of person. Like I will sit and kind of think things out and think about how to do things. But at the same time, I'm more of a hands-on kind of person. So there can be times where I try to go too fast without thinking about what the consequences could potentially be or just what could happen in general. And it could be a good thing or a bad thing. But so I would say that can be a challenge. I'm always just go.
Yeah. I mean, just to like add perhaps some context, we used to not fight a lot, but like normal brothers fight growing up. So I think and sometimes we get physical, but not anymore because we just decided like that was too much. Right. So I think since a young age, we've just forced ourselves. We spent all day together, all growing up. So we kind of had to learn how to communicate well. And now we're really good at that, communicating. And we're very direct with each other. I don't think I could be more direct with anyone in the world than them. And I know that I don't have to worry about really hurting their feelings. And even if they have something to say back, like we have that good dialogue. And so, so like Kenneth said, he's naturally, I think his super strength is being fearless, and he's an action taker. But I would say we're like the brakes. So we push back against him a lot. But I think just being aware of your strengths and weaknesses, I think that's what's helped us a lot.
Yeah. You know what? I was just going to say, one of the things, at least that I sense, right. And we all have different superpowers. And so one of the very first things, Kerwin, that you said was recognizing our individual strengths. Right. And so the more that you recognize that and really talking to you all, but talking to the Going Long family is, as you recognize what your strengths are, you recognize your strengths and you're able to use those to the best of your ability. And then at the same time, in a particular situation, that strength could be your biggest ally. And in a different situation, that strength could be your biggest potential liability. So the fact that you all are focused on what your strengths are, you're recognizing those. Sometimes they're going to be a little bit of a challenge and sometimes they're not. But me and my little brother used to fight as well. And then one day we hit one another and now we're like, you know what? I think we need to stop doing this. So we're not going to do this anymore. So let's pivot the other side. So, and I appreciate your transparency and sharing with us. Maybe the challenge, but like, what is the biggest thing that you love with being able to work with your brothers every day?
Yeah, honestly, I can start. I mean, I think like, since I always individually working at my best to become the best version of myself, I look over my shoulders and I see them too doing it as well. So not only do we keep each other accountable, but we're constantly masterminding, like Kerwin said. So whether that's us eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, Kerwin and me are like gym partners. Kenny kind of goes on his own, but we all kind of keep each other accountable and we push ourselves. So just by consistently hanging out with someone that's so committed to their own growth, it will only accelerate your own. And I think hands down, like regardless of business, it just comes down to me getting the most out of life and by surrounding myself with good people. And I know you've heard of the saying, you are the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So I credit who I am to my brothers a lot because, just having those people that are doing the same thing and trying to be as good as they can every day.
I would say,
I'll go. I would say having that united why. So obviously, we want to retire our mom. We want to help a lot of communities in Guatemala that don't have access to clean water and things like that. But in general, I mean, we really want to build a legacy, and we're really lucky that we were born into like a team. So we want to build a legacy for the Donis brothers and just our family, and really just change the world. And I think we all think big, and we're not afraid to think big.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. So, because I can remember to a time where I didn't think as big as I think now. And I didn't think that we could build something that we can pass on, through generations. So now I see why not try to build something that we can pass on to generations to come and change our family tree forever. And
on top of it, I think we're brothers, but we're also best friends. And so it's like fun. It's fun, who you surround, who you spend time with. You can do anything, whether we're going through an up and down. We have hills and valleys, but no matter what, like I wouldn't be in the trenches with anyone else. Yeah. And the last thing, since like if we step out of this small circle that we have, a lot of people will look at what we're doing and might criticize it, might think we're crazy for shooting this big because it hasn't, right? The proof of concept hasn't happened where we want to go. But when we hang out with each other, it's almost like we don't think of anything else. Therefore, it's already happened. It's just a matter of time. And I think that's the most powerful thing. That's why we're really, really protective of who we let into our circle, because we understand how strong our thoughts are. And we've already been able to turn thoughts into matter before. So now we've proved that concept and we think we can go anywhere we want. But as soon as you step out of that and you're hanging out with someone else who may not be on that same wavelength, not to say you're better than them in any way, but it is different. It definitely can be a disadvantage. So that's why I think it's a benefit.
No, I mean, and just the clarity that you guys have around that. And when you start to think about you are the sum of the 5 people that you hang out with, I mean, you are 40% of the way, right? With people that are iron sharpening iron. And so when you can move in circles where 40% of the equation is already there with you, and you just, it would be an additional 3 people or whatever. I think that's it's phenomenal. And you have the foresight and understanding to recognize that. So that's awesome, guys. Listen, I just want to keep talking to you guys forever, right? I'm going to meet up with you guys somewhere because I've been in North Carolina all the time, or maybe you guys
Barcelona
either come to Barcelona or we go to Guatemala or whatever the case may be. Yeah, exactly. I actually just took my cousin to a soccer game not too long ago. So it was actually kind of funny. We sat in the front row in the new camp. So it was his bucket list item. It was one of those things that was really awesome to be able to do. So cool. But no, guys, listen, like I don't want to, but we got to get into Going Long Final 3 because we're almost out of time. So although I want to keep talking to you forever. So the thing is, I never ask anybody the going long final three unless they tell me, or now you guys, unless you tell me that you're ready for me to ask you the going long final three. Are you ready?
Yeah, we're ready for the final three.
You guys were born 1, 2, 3 ready. So, so let's rock and roll. So here's the thing, really quickly, guys. This is like super rapid fire round. The first question and the third question specifically. First question. We started with you guys there in the Durham, Raleigh-Durham area, and I'd like to take it to Europe and help the entire Going Long family understand what is your favorite European city, either that you have visited or is still on your bucket list to visit.
I can go first. I grew up playing soccer, watching soccer. I was a big fan of Ronaldo. So Madrid, Spain. I really want to go there and watch a soccer game. Also, London for Manchester United, which is my favorite team.
For me, it'd be Paris. I want to go see the Eiffel Tower. And
Yeah, I would say Paris. I like architecture. So just that structure is very fascinating to me.
All right. Awesome. My 1 year sabbatical that has now lasted 20 years started in Paris. So be careful when you go to Paris. It's a wonderful city. Absolutely fantastic. So the other thing, guys, and this is also too kind of a rapid, I'm going to ask one of the three of you guys to answer this one. But it's one of the things that I've noticed with really successful people, and you guys are definitely on the path to becoming, and you are successful people, right? And one of the things that I've noticed with successful people already is that successful people typically are very successful because they don't make any mistakes, or they only make one mistake on their way to. Did I just say that? I think I did. It's kind of by design. Don't worry. No, it's kind of a little joke with me and the Going Long family. So one of the things that happens, and it kind of I was a little bit of a joke, but the reality is successful people, and you are successful people, make a whole lot more mistakes typically than most people. But fundamentally, they do one thing very, very differently than other people. And it's that they stop, they recognize what the learning opportunity, the mistake, however you want to call it, right? And they take a lesson away from that learning opportunity. And then they apply it with the goal of minimizing the chance of that happening another time. So I'm going to ask one of you guys to just say, what is the one lesson that you know that you've been able to learn collectively that you know somebody from the Going Long family needs to hear or needs to know today?
Yeah, I can go first. I think it was more so of like becoming more aware, and I wasn't as aware as I should have been. So obviously we didn't go to high school that long ago. We graduated high school, and then in college, I was there for a year, and I saw myself I had a lot of these habits that I was trying to cut out, and I was trying to figure out why I couldn't cut them out. And I think as soon as I became aware of, well, obviously I'm hanging out with these people that have these bad habits, all I have to do is cut them out. That was a mistake I was doing. I wasn't aware. And as soon as I cut those people out of my life, and just those habits immediately went away. So I think it's just becoming more aware. That was my mistake.
For me, it was being cautious of who you take advice from. Throughout, I took a year extra to drop out of college, which, whatever. So for me in general, I mean, it was really hard to know who I could trust with advice. And I would always ask people for advice, and I would have all these conflicting thoughts, and I couldn't really decide. So that resulted in indecisiveness. But I would say once I learned that only take advice from someone you would trade places with, that provided me with such clarity of what the decisions I should make, and who I would trust as a credible source of that and authority on the topic I was seeking advice on.
Yeah. And lastly, I would say stick to what you know. There can be a lot of shiny object syndromes, whether that's, crypto, NFTs. There's a whole bunch of things that can potentially make you money. But if you're on a path, just stick to what you know, because you can't go wrong if you know what you're doing.
Yeah. If you chase two nuts, you'll get neither.
Yeah.
There you go. I love that. Wow, guys, you know what? I just, I appreciate that. And then it's just one last one really quickly. Love for us to feed our minds before we leave. So what is one book that you would recommend to the Going Long family?
Yeah, I'll go first. I think the one of the biggest ones and most important is the Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. It kind of just lays out what difference between the 4 types of people: employee, self-employed, business owner, and an investor. I highly recommend that book.
For me, it'd be also another Robert Kiyosaki book called Fake Teachers, Fake Money, Fake Assets. It exposes us to the reality of the school system, and also just in general, what a lot of people get wrong about money and economics.
And mine would be Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I'm a big Napoleon Hill fan. Pretty much, just if you can think it and you put that in action, every day, and just work with a burning desire, you can achieve it. So Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
All right. Fantastic, guys. Well, listen, this time goes by way too fast. I know you guys are podcast hosts as well, but you get into certain conversations. It's like, wow, I just want to keep talking to you guys because I know that there's so many people that are inspired by the things that you are doing, the action that you've already taken, and the goals that you're building, and the whys that you've created in order for you to get to your goals. So, I just think about just from the very beginning of the conversation, you guys, sharing how you got into this path, why you were, really wanting to retire your mother early on after you heard some conversation from this guy on the Breakfast Club who said, hey, listen, you can become a millionaire. You guys talk about it. You're like, no, this is not possible. And then you realize that, yes, you get into wholesaling, and then you realize, like I said, the way that you were going to help to retire your mother earlier was by getting into multifamily. You've taken the path to not only say that you're going to do certain things, but you're actually putting your money where your mouth is. You are building relationships. You are learning. You are gaining experience from others. You're leveraging the efforts of others. And you are also giving back by helping to educate others. And this is one of the things that's just really, that's one of the things that I love the most about being able to do a podcast like this, is to be able to share my platform with people like yourselves, so you can go out and continue to inspire other people. And, I know that there's so many people that are listening that are like, oh my gosh, these guys are amazing. I got to talk to these guys. How can we get in, find out more about them? I know they've got great process and they're going to follow up with me and all these kinds of things. So help us understand, guys, what's the best way for the Going Long family to find out more about you, what you're doing at the Donis Investment Group, et cetera? Help us understand.
Yeah, well, we have a podcast, The Real Estate Monopoly, on most streaming platforms. You can email us, Kerwin, Kenneth, or Jeffrey at Donis Investment Group. www.donisinvestmentgroup.com is our website, and we're at Donis Brothers on pretty much every social media platform. So you can DM us.
And Donis is spelled D-O-N-I-S.
Exactly. D-O-N-I-S. Fantastic. And guys, we're going to make it really simple and easy for the entire Going Long family. As they reach out to you, we're going to include everything in the show notes as well. Awesome. And just from me, guys, I really just want to say thank you very much. I appreciate you investing your time with me and the entire Going Long family from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
All right. Fantastic. And Going Long family, listen, I know you loved today's conversation with the Donis brothers. Man, what can I say? I mean, these guys are just doing the right things, and they are have the abundant mindset and are doing the things that are going to continue to help not only themselves, most importantly, the people that are surrounding themselves with their influence. So I'm really looking forward to welcoming you back on the very next conversation, Going Long family. So until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much.
Wow. Don't you love hearing from top-notch experts in the field? When I was getting started, I really wish that I would have had access to such experts. And even more, I wish they would have given me like a really simple list of things to follow so that I could have gotten to my goals much faster and been much happier even sooner. So that's why I've created for you the 7 things that you should avoid in order to be successful in long distance investing. And you can pick that up really easily by going to billykeels.com/7 things to avoid. And also, if you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. I'm looking forward to seeing you on our very next episode, so go out and make it a great day.